biological compounds. So when we look at living things, we always look at what they're made of, okay, what do they require, and then how are they behaving and why. So right now we're going to look at what organisms are made of. And all living organisms are made out of 4 compounds. You have carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. Those are the 4 organic compounds that make up all living things. And then you take these 4 compounds plus a few other trace elements like iron and calcium and sodium, and they make up the different parts of the cells, okay, of the animal or plant or any living thing. So these 4 things will make up all living things. So we're going to look in a little bit more detail at each of these 4 major organic compounds. So the first thing that we're going to look at is carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are made out of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. And examples of these are going to be sugars and starches. These things, sugars and starches and carbohydrates in your body, are mainly going to be used as energy. It's the main source of energy for all living things. So glucose is produced by photosynthesis, and then when you eat your food, you get carbohydrates and you get glucose, and then your cells take that glucose and they break it down and you get energy from it. So the main use for carbohydrates in living things is for energy. You also get energy stored in the form of a carbohydrate, particularly starch. So, and plants are the only ones that actually store carbohydrates in the form of starch. So like a potato is full of carbohydrates, and it's stored in this method of these big long chains of glucose as starch. So plants will store energy as starch. They're also structural for both plants and animals. So you get carbohydrates that get stuck into the cell membranes and stuff like that. So it's actually part of the structure of the animal or plant as well. So mainly it's used for energy. And you can see on your screen some different kinds of things that have lots of carbohydrates in them on the left. And then on the right, you can see the structure of the glucose molecule, which is the main thing that you get energy from in your body. Lipids are another type of major organic compound, and they're made of mostly carbon and hydrogen. Examples of lipids are fats, oils, and waxes. And the main use of lipids is for energy storage, particularly in animals. So plants will store energy in the form of carbohydrates, as starch, and animals will store energy in the form of fat in your body. So when you overeat, that food does not just simply pass out of your body, and your body doesn't pretend that energy source does not exist. Your body saves that energy for a rainy day, where it expects that you may need it at some point. So it takes all of that excess energy that you would get from your food, and it stores it as fat. That's why when you overeat, you gain weight, but not necessarily muscle, you gain fat. The other ways that fat can be used in your body and in plants and animals' body is for buoyancy. So many animals that live in the ocean in particular will store fat to help them float better in the water so that they can expend less energy when they're swimming and doing their thing. They also will use fat as insulation. So many animals in the ocean, particularly mammals, will store fat under their skin to help retain heat in their body so that they don't get too cold. And then it's also used as a messenger in your body and in animals and plants' bodies. So in the form of steroids. Okay, so you get natural steroids in your body that are messengers that tell cells to do different things. It's also going to be helping to cushion organs inside the body. And obviously, well, hopefully obviously, it's a major part of the cell membranes that make up your body. So you do need to eat fat. Proteins are the other type of major organic molecule, and they are a combination of 20 different amino acids. And hopefully in freshman bio, you learned about how proteins are made. But proteins are going to make up muscles, enzymes, and also antibodies. So the main use of muscles are going to be structural. the main use of proteins are going to be structural, to make up muscles and tendons and ligaments in the body. But they're also going to be messengers, like steroids. You'll have proteins that will send messages back and forth in your body. They will also be enzymes, which will help to speed up reactions within the cell. Actually, without these proteins that are enzymes in your cells, stuff wouldn't happen fast enough in your cells for the cell to survive, and you would die. So the enzymes are critical. You also have proteins that are used in fighting off disease from your body. So you have these things called antibodies that actually help to stick invading things together so that your white blood cells can come and eat them and help to keep you healthy. So proteins will be part of your immune response as well. And then fascinatingly, actually, many of the poisons or toxins that you find in nature are actually proteins. So when you get stung by a bee or bit by a snake, what that animal is actually injecting into you is a protein, which is kind of interesting. And so you can see pictures of different kinds of things that have protein at the bottom here. The last type of major organic molecule is a nucleic acid. These are going to be DNA and RNA. And the main use of these things are going to be the directions and the pattern for making proteins. So DNA is going to provide the directions, and then the RNA is going to make a copy of that DNA and then carry the directions out for the ribosomes to make protein. And so you can see a couple different pictures of the DNA in the upper right corner. You can see what it looks like a model of it. And then you can see two pictures of the female and male chromosomes, which is the DNA of a person. So all of these four major organic molecules come together with other trace elements to form the cells. Okay? Cells are the most basic unit of life. In order to be alive, you have to have at least one cell. So all living things are made up of at least one or more cells. And then if you take a bunch of cells and you put them together, and they're all performing a specific function, then they're called a tissue. So you have many different kinds of tissues in your body. For example, digestive tissues. So if you take like the lining of your stomach, okay, those are different types of, or those are cells that are all serving the same function, maybe like secreting stomach acid. And so because they're a bunch of cells that are all doing the same function, they're called the tissue. If you take a bunch of different kinds of tissues doing different functions, and then you put them all together, and they're forming a specialized function as a unit, then it's called an organ. So if you take like the digestive tissue that's secreting the digestive juices, and then also the muscle tissue that surrounds that, and the connective tissue that holds it all together, but it's all doing the same job of being your stomach and like helping to digest food, then we would say that's the organ of your stomach. So it's a bunch of tissues together performing a specialized function. If you take a bunch of organs and you stick them together and they're doing a similar function, then it's called an organ system. So if you take your stomach, your intestines, your mouth, your esophagus, you stick them all together, you have your digestive system. Okay, all doing the similar function of breaking down food and getting nutrients for your body. If you take a bunch of systems and you put them all together, you have an organism. Okay, and so that would be like you. You are an organism. And an organism can actually have any level of organization and may have more than one organizational level. So for example, we're going to talk about sponges, and sponges actually have a cellular level of organization, meaning they're made up of many cells, but they just have different types of cells. They don't actually have tissues. And then we'll talk about cnidarians, which have a tissue level, so they have different kinds of tissues, but no organs. But they also have a cellular level of organization as well. So an organism can have one or all of these levels of organization.